Okay, shalom. So this is an incredible teaching regarding Yonah and him not fulfilling his commission at first to go to Nineveh and the consequences of that. And this can be applied to all of us that are not prepared to take up the Great Commission. Let's go and have a look. It's related to Yom Kippur. I'll just bring myself up here. Shalom. This is Yom Kippur. I've got to dress in white because I need a covering. I've got to remember Yodeh always got to be merciful to me because we all need that on this day, don't we? But on the 10th of the 7th month, it is a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation for you. You shall afflict yourselves and you shall offer up a fire offering to the Lord. That's from Leviticus 23:27. However, let's go and have a look at this. This is quite incredible. If we take the gematria for a day of atonement, Yom Kippurim, we get these numbers here, and let's just go and have a look at some of them. First of all, we've got this concept, and this is how we know it's heavily linked to the concept of Yonah. We go and have a look at Yonah in a little bit more detail in the next slide. However, this is so significant. If we take Yonah, this is the name Yonah, filled, and Yonah means dove, by the way. It's Hebrew for dove. This is the regular and ordinal. This is Yonah filled to the first filling when the vav is filled with an aleph. And all these numbers are highly significant. 149 is Melech Goyim. Yodhe Wawi wants to be king over the nations as well as Melech Israel. 71 is 70 nations plus 1 Israel. So there's massive links even here. And then this is Yonah filled out again to the second filling. Okay, again, all these are very significant. It comes to 1077, which is 3 times 359, 3 times Hasatan, the Satan. Okay, so again, you've got this connection to Yonah with Satan. We saw the picture, didn't we? The dove, or what have we got now? This trickster character, because we don't take up the Great Commission effectively. Okay, Yonah was told to go to Nineveh. According to the Midrash, this king of Nineveh was actually the Pharaoh of the Exodus, and I've talked about this a lot. The Mashiach ben Yosef is not just coming for the ordinary lost souls. He's coming for the souls that are also lost in the highest echelons of power. They are the most distanced from a revelation of the name Yodhe. Wow, he's coming for them too. I will actually show you a slide which highlights this. He's coming for the pharaohs of this world. And Yonah is an appellation for the Mashiach ben Yosef. Okay. However, from this story we can learn when we don't take up that commission, we try and run from this commission, we can fall down very, very quickly. I just want to read you something from the actual Haftarah for today's Haftarah, because you're supposed to read the entire book of Yonah on Yom Kippur. But the Haftarah in the afternoon, the mincha reading of the Haftarah, is that you read the book of Yonah and then you follow that by the book of Micah, chapter 7, verses 18 to 20. Why is that significant? Because the chapters 18 to the chapter 7, verse 18 to 20 is a revelation of the name of Yodhe at the level of Keter. I'll just show you this. Okay, so in the Haftarah for today, the Mincha reading, read the book of Yonah, but then that's followed by the book of Micah. And this is really a really wonderful book to get to understand this whole concept of the 13 attributes at the level of Keter. It's called The Palm Tree of Devorah by Rabbi Moshe Cordovero. I'm just going to read you the introduction to that, including chapter 7, verse 18 to 20. It says, "It is proper for a man to emulate his creator, for then he will attain the secret of the supernal form in both image, selem, and likeness, demut. For if a person's physical form reflects a supernal form, yet his actions do not, he falsifies his stature, People will say of him, a handsome form whose deeds are ugly. For the essential aspect of the supernal form and likeness is that they are the deeds of the Holy One, blessed be he. Therefore, what good is it that for a person to reflect the supernal form in physical form only, if his deeds do not imitate those of his Creator? Thus, it is proper that man's actions imitate the 13 supernal attributes of mercy, the function of the Sephirah of Keter, hinted at in these verses. So this is the name of Yod-Heh-Wawi as revealed above the letter of the Torah, which is the commission. It's the whole Torah of Mashiach ben Yosef, and that's why Yonah is such a sign, the only sign of Mashiach ben Yosef, because his commission is not taken seriously by those who should be taking it seriously. Who is a God like you, who pardons iniquity and forgives the transgressions of the remnant of his heritage, who does not maintain his anger forever? For he delights in kindness. He will again show us compassion. He will vanquish our iniquities, and you will cast all their sins into the depths of the sea. Show faithfulness to Yaakov, kindness to Abraham, which you have sworn to our fathers from days of old. Okay, so why did Jonah go so wrong? Because he didn't take this commission seriously. This contained within this revelation is a message of repentance for all people, for the whole of Adam. And Jonah was sent to Nineveh, Nineveh being the Exodus, the Pharaoh of the Exodus. And this is very much related to the whole dream of Pharaoh. And we will see that in the next slide. And then after we've read the story of Yonah, on Yom Kippur, we immediately read these 13 attributes of mercy. So what does that teach us? Yonah fled from the mission to go to the nations and tell about this revelation of the name of Yod-Heh-Wawi at the level of Keter. The whole purpose of Mashiach ben Yosef, if you like. And because he didn't take this commission seriously and he tried to flee from it, then God in a way got dressed up in the story of Yonah as almost a trickster. And then the storm came, and then he was asleep in the bottom of a ship and then swallowed by a whale and then spat out, and then he's walking to Nineveh, and then Nineveh actually repents, but then he's not happy about that. And then a grind goes, a kikion grows over him, and then God sends a worm to eat the vine. Okay, and this distresses Jonah to the point where he wants to die. He'd rather die. And this is because when you don't take seriously the commission that we've been commissioned to go and bring the whole of humanity to a place of repentance, and to elevate the entire level of the entire consciousness of humanity up to the level of the name as revealed in the 13 attributes of mercy, then we will learn that wisdom in a very indirect way. And once Jonah flees from the mission, the story just turns into a bizarre set of ordeals for him. And this to me is very like the whole concept of the trickster as understood within Carl Jung's psychology. You are not going to learn wisdom through the experience of fulfilling a commission. The way you learn wisdom then is God gets dressed up as a trickster and he makes an entire joke out of your life, like what he did of Jonah's life. Jonah's life, he made an entire joke out of it, getting swallowed by a whale and then spat out and this and the other. It's a very bizarre set of circumstances. There's a lot of wisdom within that, but the overall message is, if you don't do what's required, God can soon turn events around for you to make a joke out of your life instead, and then you will learn you will learn wisdom that way. And one of the things I read about this concept of the trickster, which appears most of the biblical characters are tricksters in a way, and then they end up with people playing tricks on them. So we get caught up in this trickster motif and his traits, and we suffer as a consequence. Because one of the things that I read about him was that we learn wisdom instead of the normal way through fulfilling our commission, through knowing what we should do and doing it straight away. We play around with that idea, and then God plays around with us. Okay, and we learn wit through, this is the expression that I saw on the internet, through the apotheosis of wit into wisdom. So God makes a joke of your life, and then you learn from that lesson what you should have learned from the beginning. Just get on and do what you're meant to be doing. This is what we need atonement for, because we've brought a lot of chaos and a lot of trickery into our own lives, and we wonder why our own lives have turned into a joke, because we in a way make a joke of the commission, and we've got to get out of that habit. And the whole point of Day of Atonement should be to erase with us, it's like we've got to erase the whole trickster joker motif from our lives. We just simply want to be doing what we should be doing. It's very difficult in this exile, because you've got to be wise as, we are out in wolves. You've got to be as innocent as doves and as wise as a serpent. Wise as a serpent and as innocent as doves. So sometimes you've got to assume the trickster in this world in order to get on and simply survive. But we've also got to be as innocent as doves. We've not got to forget the original commission. The reason and purpose why we are here is not to play tricks and have tricks played on us. It's to fulfill, one, to be that name. Just as Rabbi Moshe Cordovero said, we've got to imitate that name in our lives through our deeds. We don't just, the human form resembles the heavenly form. It's the 10 Sefirot of the Tree of Life. But we've got to imitate that through our deeds. But we've also got to spread that mission, spread that word and that light and that message of repentance to all peoples. It's not just for us to do our own deeds. It's for us to do our own deeds and get everybody in humanity to do our own deeds. We on our own are not enough. Okay, and the readings of the Yom Kippur should illustrate that to us. It's a very powerful message if you're willing to receive it. And then this is how it's related to Kittim and Kedar. Very, very mystical stuff written here. So the square ordinal of a Day of Atonement, 1409, exactly the same as these three added up with Yonah. The 3 regular plus the 3 ordinal, add them up and they come to 1409. So it's incredible connection. The Day of Atonement is a sign of Yonah, and the sign of Yonah is the only sign of Mashiach ben Yosef. So let's go and have a look what else it relates to. So for Passover, Ki Ivru, and this is very much like the origin of the name Hebrew. If there was a bear that came from the other side of the river that crossed over, we are to distinguish ourselves, by crossing over. We are contraflow, if you like. And that's what Abraham was. He was the first Hebrew. So even in these letters, Ivru, there is connection to the concept of being a Hebrew. We have to be Hebrews. Even Jonah said, Ivri onechi, I am a Hebrew. When they were asking him loads of questions about who you are and what God you worship and things like this, Onechi Ivri, I am a Hebrew. So there's connections even there. We have got to be like Hebrews. We have not got to be like Greeks. We've not got to be like Edomites. We've not got to be like Ishmaelites. We've got to be like Hebrews. If you rearrange those letters, it spells Orev, which is a raven. You saw at the beginning. The whole concept of the raven is a trickster character. So you don't come as a dove. You might find yourself living your life through like an Orev, like a raven. And this is possibly why there's a connection to the ravens in Eliyahu Hanavi. He was fed by the ravens, okay? And the Eliyahu Hanavi precedes Moshiach. So we've got to take this experience. We've all been fed by the ravens, by the way. We've all experienced life at the hands of the tricksters. We've all experienced God dressed up as tricksters when we're not doing what we should be doing, i.e. imitating his name as revealed at Keter and passing on, this commission to make people aware of this name. We can all fall into the hands of the tricksters and we can all become tricksters. We can all be like ravens instead of like doves. We've got to make that transition. So, and become Hebrew instead of erred. Erred instead of erred. You know, got to transfer into Hebrews, which is really a Hebrew synonymous with the truth. I've talked about this a lot. Whereas, you know, an erred, which is exactly also exactly the same letters in that order for Arab, is really connected to deceit and falsehood and trickery. Okay, so let's transition. Let's be doing what we know we need to be doing in thought, word and deed. Ki avru iye ketiyim. So for Passover to the Isles of the Kittites. Now the Kittites were the Greeks, but if you go and research Kittites on Wikipedia, there's definitely powerful association between them. The Greeks, these are the Greek islands specifically that they're talking about, and I think there's specifically Cyprus as well, but there's definitely rabbinical writings, and the sages identify the Kittites with Rome also. So this has got a big connection to Christianity, okay, in some way, because within Christianity, which is synonymous with Rome within rabbinical Judaism, or definitely connected to Rome, as is Christianity connected to Rome through the Vatican, the Roman Catholic Church, there's also the lost house of Joseph within there. So the fact that we've got this word Iver, and Joseph was called the Hebrew servant, and by Potiphar's wife, so, you know, but he is in disguise at this time as well, isn't there? So there's that certain aspect of trickery involved in that. He's got dressed up as all the Roman gods and the Greek gods. So there's this Greco-Roman facade that we've got to break through. And I've just been doing a lot of research on the origins of Christianity and some of the original sects, some of the heretical sects and the Gnostic sects and things like that. And basically, there is such an infiltration into early Christianity of Greek philosophy. It's not just the Roman influence. It's saturated by erroneous Greek philosophical concepts. That it should be, this message of Yeshua, this message of salvation, should be rooted firmly and yoked to the Torah of Moshe. But it certainly wasn't in the early days. It was yoked to Greek philosophy. And then because of that, all the original doctrines have got mixed up. You've got a mixture of influence then, because half of it's philosophical, come from Greek philosophy. And you know, even all the concept of logos, got to be very, very careful. It's not Hebraic. We've got to be Hebraic. And you can see this when you don't take the actual message and root that and yoke that to the Torah of Moshe. Again, you've got this trickster version. You've got this joke version of the truth, garbed up in Greco-Roman influences, and then inspiring people's deeds as a consequence to that, as opposed to being yoked to the Torah of Moshe and the name of Yotewaweh. Okay, we'll see how this is all connected also to the desecration of his holy name that has occurred within Christianity and within Judaism. So the Kittites, Greco-Romans, the house of Joseph. So who's Kedar then? Kedar is the tribe that Muhammad came from. So you've got the linked to Kedar, and notice how there's no Ivru here. It's the word shlachu, to send. Okay, and then we've got this word, and consider diligently, me'od. And I talked about that in one of the recent teachings I've done, this whole concept of ma'od. If you cipher up me'od, so you take it one backwards, so the mem becomes a lamed, the aleph becomes a tav, and the daleth becomes a gimel, you get the word galut, exile. What exile are we in? We're in the Greco-Roman exile, of the Edomite exile. We've got to wrestle with all the forces of Edom, all the forces of Esav. We've got to wrestle through the night until we reveal the truth. Okay, Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive. And Yosef represents the revelation of the name at the level of Keter that's found in the book of Micah. That is the ultimate message of Mashiach ben Yosef, the revelation of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh above the letter of the Torah, but that needs to be yoked to the name as revealed within the letter of the Torah, and it washes clean the Torah of Moshe, just as it's written about in Zohar. In the Zohar, it talks about the all-seeing eye of mercy, which is this level. The Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh is revealed at the level of Keter, washing clean the two eyes of Zer and Pin, the Torah of Moshe, from the black and the red. Okay, this is the death and the judgment. It's got to yoke them together. But what's happened? Well, I'll tell you what's happened. The Torah of Moshe's got yoked up to Greek philosophy. The Quran's got yoked up to Greek philosophy. And the Christian Gospels, the Gospels, the message of Mashiach ben Yosef has got yoked up to Greek philosophy, and nobody's going anywhere fast, and we live in a joke instead, because we've got all these false doctrines. And because they're not all yoked to where they should be yoked, we're not really fulfilling. We don't even know what the true message of Yeshua is. We're not in understanding about the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. That's why he says when he comes again, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai. You won't see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. And this can only be accomplished when the message of Mashiach ben Yosef is yoked up to the Torah of Moshe. Okay? The triangular numbers of this, there's loads of that you could say in that. There's loads of mystery just in that. 2,818 is 2 times 1,409. Big message. That's the two doves, isn't it? For the king on the way, Lemelech al aderech. I'm pretty sure that this is when he gets dressed up. Just wait a minute. But it comes to 1,409. And also that comes to 1,000. The ordinal is 140, which is 2 times 70, 2 times ayin, 2 eyes. And 1,549 is 1,000 plus 549. 1,000 is a concept of Mashiach ben Yosef plus Mashiach ben Dawid. 434 plus 566 comes to 1,000. It's also the concept of the Aleph Gadol, and Moshe's called the Aleph Gadol. Aleph is usually 1, but when it's big, like it's written in the name of Adam, Enosh, Adam, Seth, and Enosh in the Book of Chronicles, it's written with a double-sized Aleph. That's called the Aleph Gadol. In the Aleph of Adam, it's worth 1,000. Okay, so this is a concept of the Mashiach, and 549 is Yoshua ben Nun, the regular of not Yoshua ben Nun. I'm just going to look up this and see if it's to do with the king getting disguised. I'm not too sure. Yeah, I thought it was. It's and the prophet went and waited for the king on the way, and he disguised himself with his headband over his eyes. So you've got this word, Wayit Hapes, and the regular and ordinal of that is 888, which is Hamoshiach filled out. It's a very messianic number. There's 3 instances where people disguise themselves using this word, Wayit Hapesh. Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh does it, the prophet does it, and Saul does it. Okay, so it's a very mystical term. Okay, so we've got an instance, what we're dealing with now, where God can get dressed up as a trickster. He can get in disguise, and this word, it does show in the Tanakh that Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh himself got disguised. Okay, so it's very interesting. Let's go back. So we definitely don't want God to get disguised as a raven instead of a dove in our lives. Let's get the mission. Let's get what we're supposed to be doing in thought, word and deed. aligned to the name of Yoteh, while we're yoked up to the Torah of Moshe, and let's take that message out to all people in any way that we can. You know, we see a distressed person, spread the light. It's easier said than done, but you know, there's consequences when we don't. We need to cleanse ourselves on this Day of Atonement for all the opportunities that we've missed, for all the times we've fallen short of that image that we have within ourselves, to be able to spread this light. There's loads of people putting loads of energy into spreading rubbish and influencing the whole world with rubbish. You can look on TikTok, even religious people, they've got agendas. They will not stop peddling their hate. They will not stop peddling their false doctrines. They have got so much energy for that. Okay, but look at their lives. You'll usually find that their lives are a joke. You know, choose the people who've got some sense of uprightness and dignity, because usually the message that they're carrying will be the right one. Look to those people. And then we've got a hot Ha'aron, which is Miriam. The Misbah Gadol and the ordinal together come to 1,409. Okay, so there's big connections, especially Miriam, to the fact that within Christianity, there was the potential also for women to be disciples. Now, somewhere along the line, this got muddled up and jumbled up, but there's also that it's not just men that can go and spread this light and imitate the name and yoke their name up to the Torah of Moshe, because this is my life's work. I'm not saying I'm completely there yet, far from it. That's why I have to sit how I am today on the Day of Atonement and try and reflect on the ways in which I've fallen short. But we, in a way, are representative of the divine feminine. Once we get to the level of Mashiach ben Yosef, once you yoke up the messages given through Yeshua to the messages given through Moshe, those two names, we're at really the level of Mashiach ben Dawid, which represents the final letter here of the name Yoteh Waweh, the Malkuth, where we've got to start to unite body and soul together, male and female, vessel and light. Okay, so Aaron's sister in a way was this, because you had Moshe and his brother, and then you've got Yehuda and his brother Yosef that need to be united together to fill up with a vessel, and you've got all kinds of really strange concepts of this whole male and female, especially within Greek philosophy, which we seem to have adopted, you know, this whole mystical union. But basically Aaron's sister Miriam represents that final letter here, and that's why Yeshua's mother was called Miriam, and other significant people within that movement were called Miriam. And you know, it might refer to a particular person, it certainly refers to a community as well. So there's a connection here. We are all in a way the community of Yeshua. We all really are and sister. We're all that well, you know. Miriam, the water flowed on account of Miriam, and that's why after Miriam died, the water didn't flow from the rock anymore, and Moshe hit the rock in front of Bnei Yisrael, and this is why he was buried outside of Eretz Israel. On account of this, he had an opportunity to glorify the name of Yodeh Waweh, and he didn't at that point in the eyes of Israel. Okay, so there's all things that we can learn from that, but 1,409 is all connected to the Day of Atonement. Also, Aaron's sister spoke Lashon Hara against Moshe, and this is a big problem when it comes to Christianity, because we have got a wonderful message. We have a revelation of the name of Yod-Heh Waweh, but we don't yoke it up to the actual authority of Moshe. There's not a prophet like Moshe. The prophecy and the light as revealed in the Torah of Moshe, there's nothing equivalent to it. The Gospels are not equivalent to the Torah of Moshe in terms of the level of prophecy at all. It's a supreme level of revelation. You know, it's a perfect level of revelation. What we've got at this time is imperfect. You know, in terms of the revelation within the Gospels, there's been a lot of corruption, there's been a lot of trickery, and it's very difficult to know what the true message is. If you don't know the Torah of Moshe, you won't know what the true message of Yeshua is, and if you don't yoke them together, then the message it's all filled with error, it's all filled with Greek philosophical concepts. Instead, you bridge the gaps. So we've got to understand the significance of Moshe. Moshe is the Mashiach of Yotewahwe, as revealed in the mind of Yotewahwe, which is the Torah. And Moshe came again as Yeshua. And Moshe will come again, the Mashiach will come again as Mashiach ben David, if he's not already come, through the life of Muhammad, who represented the Mahmad, which is a term for the Messiah. And also in the Dome of the Rock, the inscriptions on the Dome of the Rock point to the Mahmad that is understood to be Muhammad, the prophet, the messenger of God. It's very clear in there that that's referring to Yeshua. So did Yeshua come again? We don't know, because the story's been hidden and deceived. But if you seek the truth, you'll find it. You'll have a better understanding regarding who Muhammad really was, because his message is definitely aligned to what we would expect to come from Mashiach ben Mashiach ben David. It's my opinion that the message within the Quran is the message of Mashiach ben David. It's the unity of the two sticks, Yehuda and Yosef, come together. But we're in a state of exile, and this has gone over into Ishmaelite exile. So what you see on the outside is all the evil. You don't see the light that it's hiding. And at some point we're going to have to overcome our egos so that the outer shell reveals the inner fruit that it's hiding. So Aaron sister, there's loads of different connections you can make with that. Then we've got Yaakov. The triangular number for the Day of Atonement is Yaakov, when he's got the Vav that includes the truth about Od Yosef Chai. Yosef is still alive. Where does he get that Vav from? Eliyahu Hanavi. Because 5 times in Tanakh, Eliyahu Hanavi has got a missing Vav, and 5 times Yaakov has got an additional Vav. The square ordinal of Yaakov is 757, exactly the same as the Day of Atonement. Yaakov wrestling with Esav through the night is the atonement. Okay. Bath Pharaoh, daughter of Pharaoh, 757. This was the mother, the surrogate mother of Moshe. She was Bath Pharaoh on the outside. She was like a raven on the outside. In fact, she was, they call her Menenetet, the god that's half serpent, half woman. Exactly the same as Lilith. Exactly the same as a lot of the depictions of Eve or the serpent. You know, if you go look at the concept of the serpent in a lot of the original Christian art, it depicts the head of a woman and the body of a serpent, and this is exactly the same motif given to Bath Pharaoh. She was the daughter of Pharaoh. That means she was a god. Which god? Renenetet. That's the Egyptian name, and I think it's the Mouthis, the Greek version of that. You can find that in Josephus. Okay, so Bath Pharaoh was only on the outside. Inside, later in the text, she was called Bat Yah, daughter of Yah. And she's one of the highest levels of, according to the Zohar, she's one of the highest levels of women, because she gets to one of the holy yeshivas is named after Bath Pharaoh. So she's a very exclusive woman in terms of a spiritual standing, yet she came as Bath Pharaoh, the daughter of Pharaoh, basically Lilith. Renenetet is the motif of Lilith, the half woman, half serpent. But hidden in that was Bath Yah, daughter of Yah. That was her other name. And also in the Tanakh she's called the Jewess. Yeah. You can trace it. You can look it up. It's quite a phenomenon. I did a study into it. 82, by the way, is Mashiach ben David, the ordinal of Mashiach ben David. So she's also connected to the Day of Atonement. And like I said, the dove is hidden in the raven at this time. we've got to transform that raven into the dove, to be able to see clearly. And the dove is also symbolic of the the fallen woman. At this time that dove is fallen down into exile and is represented by a raven in many ways. We've got to go through that process of rectification to raise ourselves up from this trash heap. Bring our faces up from the dirt. Bring that inner dignity. How do we gain dignity in this world? By imitating the name Yod-Heh-Wawi. There's no other way. There's no other form of dignity other than to imitate that name and to do what we can to make that light known to others. Malkuth, kingdom. So this is what it's all connected. Yaakov desires to be united. Yaakov is Tiferet. He desires to be united with the letter He. And this all occurs through Yesod, which is Yosef. Okay. Malkuth represents King David. 496 is the three words to describe the moon, which is HaMe'or, HaKatan, HaLaila, the luminary that is small in the night. 496, that comes to also, he was red with beautiful appearance, comes to 496. So it's definitely connected, and that is Malkuth, kingdom. Also Leviathan is 496. These are the forces that we've got to wrestle against. And Leviathan is Pharaoh. Okay, linked to Pharaoh. 1514 is the square ordinal plus the square ordinal and the regular. Comes to 1514, which is 2 times 577. So Malkuth and Yaakov need to be united together. Okay? And let's hope this Day of Atonement provides us with some measure of cleansing that would enable that to happen. Some recognition of the folly that we've been entertaining that's been barring that. Divine union between heaven and earth, between Israel and the nations, between man and wife, body and soul, vessel and light. Now, this is the big opponent that nobody sees. This is Greece, Yavan. We entertain the folly. We entertain the folly of Greek philosophy. It's just a jumbled up, complicated mess. And instead of being yoked to the Torah of Moshe, that is perfect, we choose instead to be yoked to Greek philosophy that brings no unity, is no truth in it. It's the only truth that we should gain from the Greek philosophers is the fact that the Greeks represent, you've got to understand how Greek philosophy was predominantly born out of these islands, by the way. The Ionian Islands, most of the Greek philosophy is definitely rooted back to that. Their whole world vision stuck on that island is very insular. Okay, so to them God appears as a faraway God. And they also, there's all kinds of reasons, I can't really go into it today, but there's reasons why island life breeds the sort of understanding of God that the Greeks assumed. Okay, there's reasons why when you're stuck on an island that's very small, a lot of these Greek islands are very small, and you're totally dependent on the sea, and for a large portion of the year that sea is very aggressive. There's not much arable land on the island, and you're very much dependent on that sea that is aggressive for huge amounts of times of the year. It's very rough seas between the islands. So you have to understand that from there was born Greek philosophy. And sometimes you question God when you're on an island. I remember, because I lived on an island myself, and I know the kind of people that live on islands. They have a very specific mindset. And for example, when you are so dependent on the sea for your livelihood, like I remember the story of this family, and this is talking about the island of Iona, and I love the island of Iona. It's named after Yonah. Literally, it means the dove. Saint Columba, the first saint in Scotland, or certainly the most influential saint in Scotland that spread the message of Christianity to throughout Scotland. He resided on Iona. He was originally Irish, but he repented after being in a war and things like that, and he set himself to sea, and he ended up on the island of Iona. But prior to that, it was a Druid island, and the Druids are very much linked to Simon Magus, and this is a part of the delusion that goes on that prevents the true message of Yeshua from getting out, and that's definitely linked up to the whole concept of Greek philosophy as well. He was the original Gnostic. There's all kinds of things that you could talk about, but anyway, on Iona, I can remember this story about these boys that had gone to the pub on the island of Mull. They had to cross over at night on their own boat, what's called the Sound of Iona, back home. 4 boys died, I think, that night. That was an entire generation wiped out, a small, tiny community of people living on the island of Iona. And suddenly every, male adult of a certain age is gone. They're under the water. I think there was one guy that survived. He was a mulach that survived. Lived on the island of Mull. This was a tragedy. The entire generation wiped out. So suddenly the sea that you depend on for your livelihood, you're praising God for, suddenly takes all your sons in one tragedy. And you can guarantee you can go on any island in this world and that tragedy will have been told many, many times over. So you can understand, so God is providing you all the fish and livelihood from the sea, and then suddenly your whole generation and your men go out to sea to bring in the harvest, and they're all gone in an instant. It's a tragedy. So that's why to them God seems an unknowable God, because you can't make sense of that. And this is where you get the concept of Ein Sof from. This unknowable God, this distant God who's far away, not really interested in the human affairs. There is a God, but he's somewhere really very far away. And we're just left to suffer the reality down here. This is Greek. This has infected most of Christianity. In one way or another, it's certainly affected Judaism as well. And it's also infected Islam. We need to rid ourselves of this Greek influence. You see, the 41 is the ordinal of Kisei Dawid, the throne of David. You see, what should be there is the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef. That is the throne of David, according to Vilna Gaon. Instead, we've got Greek philosophy. And one of the people that really stood against this concept, and even against the whole concept of the Hasidic movement within Judaism, was the Vilna Gaon, because he could see the error in concepts like the Ein Sof and the influence that the Greek philosophers had within Judaism, and the whole Hasidic sect took a hold of these philosophical concepts, whereas the Vilna Gaon didn't, and he rejected the Hasidic movement on the basis of their adoption of some Greek philosophy, because he could see the problems with it, that it led to pantheism and things like that. It's all very interesting, but it's all Greek influence. There's massive amounts of Greek influence. The thing that we should have learned from the Greeks is that they gave us an opportunity to see how ready for the universal message that they were. They were searching so hard for answers, the Greeks. They was looking for the truth. So this gives you an opportunity to understand, you see, that search for meaning and for purpose is not just Hebraic. Every human being wants to receive some sort of illumination. So this gives you an opportunity to understand. You see, the message of the Torah, the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, is universally applicable. And we know this from the book of Jonah. This is why Jonah was mocked. I'll just read you, so we know very clearly what the commission is. and what the mission of Yahweh is to come to every man. I'll just read this. I shouldn't close the book up, just wait a minute. Nearly there. We're on Rosh Hashanah now. Right, Yom Kippur. Okay, so Torah. Right, we're here. Almost. Book of Yonah. Right, he says, and shall I not take pity upon Nineveh, that great city, which has in it much more than 12 myriads of people? Adam. So the word is Adam, not people. It's humanity. Myriads of people who cannot distinguish between their right hand and their left, as well as beasts in abundance. So God is quite clear. He doesn't just want the message to go to the Hebrews or to the lost house of Joseph. He wants the message to go to all of Adam. And the Greeks showed that hunger. They were striving. The Greek philosophy is very beautiful. It's just off target. It's very beautiful. It's very the Greeks are famed for beauty. Their philosophy is beautiful. The art is beautiful. They've got something in that. But really, we've adopted the wrong aspect of what the Greeks gave us. The Greeks gave us the confidence to understand that the message of the name of Yahweh was universally applicable. The light at the level of Keter is universally applicable. Okay? And these were hungry enough vessels to be able to receive that revelation. Okay, so that's the message that should have been drawn. And as you can see, it's equivalent to Yaakov there, and up to here, the Day of Atonement. So we've just got to get things in the right order. Okay, because God has got a plan for these people, as we can see up here. It's all wonderful. And the 6th day, Yom Hashishi, comes to 757. And this is like, there's so many mysteries in that. We're in a process of rectification, aren't we? And it's taken 6 days. On the 6th day, man was created. So Adam was created on the 6th day. He fell before he reached the 7th day. The message of Yeshua is the 7th day, really. Okay, it's an incarnation of the concept of the 7th day, the Holy Shabbat, where man can rest. King David is a revelation. His upper soul is a revelation of the 8th day. And he's an incarnation of the 7th day. That's why under King David we get the rest. Yeshua was an incarnation of the 6 days. That's why he was perfected, because at the end of the 6 days, the 6,000 years of rectification, man will be finally perfected. But Yeshua came where he was an incarnation of those 6 days. His upper soul was the 7th day. That's why he says, I'm the master of the Shabbat. I've talked about this in other lessons. There's all kinds of symbolism there. It's very important. Behold, in my poverty I prepared for the house of the Lord 100,000 talents of gold, 1,000 talents of silver, and of copper and iron, without weight, for it was in abundance. And I prepared wood and stones, and you shall add to them. Okay, so the Misbah Gadol is 9 times 409. This is King David preparing to build the temple. Okay, it's all connected to this. Most significant day when the Holy of Holies was opened up was on the Day of Atonement. There's all kinds of wonderful connections here. We wanted to rebuild the temple below to create a dwelling place for Yahweh. But the more we accommodate the revelation of his name, and the more we think, speak and do in accordance to that revelation, the more we will be like a temple that is able to house the actual presence of God, presence of Yahweh. So beautiful. This is very interesting. So we're wrestling through the night. Yaakov is wrestling through the night. We saw how Yaakov was related to the Day of Atonement. And the socket of Jacob's hip became dislocated, and he wrestled with him. I'm just going to show you how this links to the concept of Nineveh. At the end of 2 full years, and Pharaoh was dreaming. The initial letters, if we skip over Pesach, Passover, Pharaoh, spell Moshiach in order. And it comes to exactly the same as that. So we're wrestling through the night of exile in order to bring in the lost house, in order to correct the whole of humanity. Okay, that's the ultimate goal, to defeat Satan. So, Michet Shnatayim Yamim Ufaro Holem. So, Miketz Mem Shin Yod Chet spell Mashiach, and the thing that's integral into that is and Pharaoh. So Pharaoh's passed over. The Mashiach incorporates Pharaoh within himself. Okay, let's go see how this links on. So we know that Mashiach ben Yosef has come to include Pharaoh, and we know that this is talking about Yosef because it's talking about the dream of Pharaoh. It says, Rabbi Nehuniah ben Hakana says, know the power of repentance, come and see it from Pharaoh, king of Egypt, who rebelled greatly against the highest rock, our God. And then the Holy One saved him from among the dead. Pharaoh went and ruled in Nineveh, and the people of Nineveh were writing works of profanity, stealing from one another, engaging in all kinds of perversity and in such wicked things, and other such wicked things. And then the Holy One sent Jonah to deliver a prophecy to Nineveh about its destruction. Pharaoh heard and stood up from his throne and tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes, and announced to all his people that they should fast for 3 days, and that anyone who did not do it would be burned in fire. So that's Pika de Rabbi Eliezer, and that's 43. So this is incredible. Yonah was sent to the king, to the Pharaoh of the Exodus, okay, in order to even bring him in. God has a plan for all of Adam. All of Adam fell, including and Pharaoh. This is why it's taking so long. These big pharaohs don't immediately repent. You know what happened in Egypt. Okay, just slightly disordered. Okay, so if we take it from here, it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh was dreaming, and behold, that comes to 1,666, which is a significant number. 334 ordinal, add them together come to 2,000, which is the 2,000 years of suffering of Mashiach ben Yosef, the 2,000 years of Mashiach. Yod Wawe Eloech El Kana. Yod Wawe, our God, is a jealous God. He's jealous to fulfill his Torah. He's jealous for his name to be revealed through the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef. Okay, he's a jealous God. Look, it comes to 386, the regular and ordinal 386 is exactly the same as Yeshua. The square ordinal is 1,280, add them together, 1,666. He's jealous for his name to be revealed to all Adam, to bring all Adam to a place of repentance, even including the pharaohs of this world. Yeshua, the Mashiach ben Yosef, has the power to bring Pharaoh to his knees also. Male and female, Zakor Unkeva. So this is the male and the female. The Nukva, which is the Malkuth. We talked about establishing the Malkuth. It comes to 474, which is Da'af. Adam knew Eve. Square ordinal comes to 1,192. Add it to the regular and ordinal, 1,666. We want this unity. How is it going to come about? And he made him a fine woolen coat. This is to do with Mashiach ben Yosef. This is what caused the problem that took him to Egypt, that ended up in prison, that then ended up in getting redeemed because he was able to interpret dreams. 1,666 plus a kalel comes to 1,667, the same as this. So we know there's a link through the kalel. Hidden in this is what Yodeh-Wawe really desires to accomplish, the unity of male and female. And again, another very powerful connection, Yeshua, he's the Mashiach ben Yosef. This is it filled to the second filling, where the Vav is filled within Aleph, which is very significant in itself. The regular and ordinal come to 1,666. You shall not desecrate my holy name. This is what Yodeh-Wawe is zealous for. Okay? 1,666. And 1856 is 8 times 232. 8 times let there be light, ye are. What light? The hidden light, the Ha'aga news, the hidden light of the name of Yahweh above the letter of the Torah and within the letter of the Torah, yoked together. You shall not desecrate my holy name. And it's linked to all this. Okay? Yeshua has been desecrated, and the name of Yahweh desecrated along with him. We've got to change that. Right, this is just a connection. Going back to the fact that Yom Kippur comes to 1409. I did this a few years ago. I did this about I forgot a golden dove. This is taken from the Gemara. This is quite interesting actually. Just to end it, the Gemara asked, what is different about a dove, that he specifically said that was the object that he forgot. There's all kinds of mystery. I do a teaching on this about the Talmud, decoding the Talmud. The Gemara asked, because the community of Israel is likened to a dove, as it is written, the wings of a dove covered in silver, and its pinions with the shimmer of gold. So this is taken from Psalm 68:14. The Gemara explains the parable, just as a dove is saved from its enemies only by its wings, so too Israel is saved only by the merit of its mitzvah. The right and the left dove, the dove symbolises the Mashiach. The body is Moshe, the left arm is Mashiach ben Yosef, the right arm Mashiach ben David, right? The left wing is joy, the way we serve God with joy. The right arm is the way we serve God with love. Okay? And that is what we should be striving for, whatever we do, whatever we think, whatever we say, let it be in accordance to the name of Yahweh, and because of that, let it be done with love and joy. That's the ultimate goal where we're heading. And this is taken from Berakoth 53b. Just have a look at this, however, this psalm that's mentioned. If you lie between the borders, the feathers of the dove covered with silver and its pinions with brilliant gold, this is what's mentioned here. The initial letters spell Atbash, which is a cipher. Atbash, instead of the Aleph you do the Tav, instead of the Bet you do the Shin. It's a type of ciphering in Gematria. So you change all the letters according to Atbash of the word that you've been given. So the fact it spells out Atbash, if we change all those words to Atbash, the initial letters spell Atbash, if you change letters to Atbash, they become, you can hardly read them, but there is, some of these words make sense to a certain degree. But however, the regular and ordinal add up to 1409, which we've just had a look, is the regular and ordinal of the spelling out of Yonah. So this story, which in a lot of ways a coded story pointing towards Yeshua, and I go through this when I do my teachings on the Talmud, decoding the Talmud, very early on in the teachings, some of the first videos that I did decoding the Talmud, I'll go through this story, I forgot a golden dove. But as you can see, again, it's related to Yonah in a very mystical way. It's talking about a Yonah. This whole story as well is really interesting. I forgot a golden dove. I'm not going to go through it now, but it's very, very interesting, and it's all coded up, pointing at Yeshua being the Mashiach, and for sure. It's just very interesting. And with that, I'll say shalom. And I pray on this day that we all receive that atonement. We're all cleansed so that we're able to be like doves in the world, giving the true message to all humanity, to bring them to a place of repentance, to turn them from the place where they're at toward the name of Yahweh. Turn them round to face the name of Yahweh, because then they can start behaving as they were created to behave, and imitating the name of Yahweh instead of imitating all the trickery and foolishness and evil that we're also influenced to imitate. And with that, I'll say shalom.